Hey everyone. So, as a public speaker myself, I have had this question asked of me over and over again, which is how do you actually maintain your composure when speaking in front of a lot of people? And this is super important because over the years, I have had various opportunities to speak with politicians you only see on the news, with world class entrepreneurs, and at one point, even in front of 30,000 listeners on national radio. And throughout all of that, I've felt a baseline level of zero stress. And as a result of that, I have learned a couple of super simple strategies, a couple of measures you can put in place to also feel no stress, regardless of the circumstance, whatever. You're speaking in front of 100,000 people. So let's get to it. So the first thing you should understand is the fact that stress and anxiety are just as normal of emotions as is happiness, sadness, excitement, whatever. This new age idea that you should feel absolutely no stress, no anxiety whatsoever, and the moment you feel the slightest touch of anxiety, you should take antidepressants, anxiety meds, whatever, is not only completely wrong, it's also incredibly dangerous. So first thing you should understand is the fact that stress is a absolutely normal response to various different stimuli, whatever. You're at a job interview, whatever. It's a normal response, just as is happiness to a great event, as is sadness to getting a bad grade in math, whatever it is, if you're in school. So stress, completely normal emotion. However, there are certain types of stress which are good and which are bad. The bad types of stress make your stomach feel weird, make you feel all jittery, that make you stumble over your own words, which I will also show you how I did exactly that in the biggest interview I've ever had. But there are measures you can put in place in order to reduce the level of bad stress that you feel. So, first up, and this is so incredibly important, and I need you to visualize this. So, first ask yourself this question: will you suffer death as a consequence of whatever it is you're doing? You're speaking at a networking event, whatever. Ask yourself, if I screw up my presentation, will I die? The answer to that question is absolutely yes, you will. You won't be shot. You will live to see the next morning, and nothing at all in the world will change if you screw up. Imagine the worst possible scenario. In this case, in the case of my radio interview, I don't know, throwing up in front of 30,000 people, not being able to answer questions. No matter what I did in that interview, I couldn't have done anything that would have resulted in my death. And a next step to exactly this question is visualizing it. So imagine a sun rising over the horizon. And when you have done that, imagine that exact thing, but after your networking event, interview, whatever. Ask yourself, will the sun actually rise over the horizon? If worst comes to worst, I screw up my presentation, I throw up on stage, whatever, will I die? Will the sun rise over the horizon tomorrow if everything goes to shit? And the answer is an absolute yes. Yes, the sun will rise, and no, you will not die. So, everything, all stress you feel, is a natural human emotion that you feel as a result of possibly dying. If you lived 10,000 years ago, you could have been eaten by a lion, whatever, eaten by a bear. And in that case, yes, you should feel anxiety. It's a completely normal emotion. But now, when you don't have that risk of being eaten by a bear, your body still looks for possible ways you could die, which in this case, subconsciously, is screwing up your presentation. But when you realize the fact that no matter what goes wrong in your presentation, no matter what, you won't die, the level of stress that you feel will significantly increase. Or, yeah, rather decrease. Now, next up, how to feel comfortable in your own body. And this is so incredibly important. And I keep telling people this. How you perform is absolutely contingent on how you look and how you feel. For me, I feel great when I'm dressing in suits, when I'm dressing formally. For you, it may be different, but I like feeling like an entrepreneur. I like feeling important. I like when people look at me. And as a result, I feel more confident. I speak better. And as a result, when I notice that, hey, I feel much better when I dress in suits, I just started doing that and I perform much better. I speak better. I feel more confident. And obviously, if you change something in your style, whatever it is you're trying to improve, obviously people will notice and they will comment. I remember when I first started dressing more formally, my friends, family, whatever, they started commenting things like, oh, are you a diplomat now? No, obviously I'm not. But I felt much more confident in my own body. And as a result, I started performing better. I started speaking better. So you should understand the fact that how you perform is contingent on how you feel and not how whatever, friends, family, whatever. It isn't absolutely contingent on how other people feel. So all of that, you should understand, is just noise. It's just play, whatever. They can comment what they need. But if you feel better, if you perform better, that's the only important thing. Next up, replacing anxiety with excitement. I will also share a couple of details I have never shared publicly before about myself, so you can actually understand the point which I'm coming from. I remember walking home from my gym, going past a coffee shop, and feeling anxious. I felt my heart beating faster at the mere thought of going into that coffee shop alone to order a coffee. Why? Because I didn't know what coffee was. I know black coffee, but I don't know whatever, lattes, cappuccinos, whatever. I didn't know really what to order. So as a result of that, I was scared to go in there because what will other people think of me? But at one point, I went past that coffee shop. I think I was like 15, 16. And I was thinking in my head, look, brother, you're a basically military-aged male. You go to the gym, you're built as fuck, and what are you, seriously scared to go into a coffee shop to order a coffee? And at that point, I felt so incredibly embarrassed and honestly like disgusted by myself that I went into that coffee shop and I actually asked the barista, like, look, I don't really know anything about coffee. What can you recommend? She recommended a couple of options and I ordered the first one I liked. That's it. And that was the tipping point, which has led to me feeling absolutely comfortable, whatever the circumstance. I have hosted dozens of events at this point. At one point, I even hosted an event for world-class entrepreneurs, which made up a room worth over 58 million euros. And here you can see this is one of our partners at the time. And here, if we actually go to the start of the video, this is one of the most well-known entrepreneurs here in Latvia. If we look here, she is a Latvian politician. He owns one of the biggest businesses here in Latvia. He is a millionaire, and there is a room full of these people. And I felt absolutely zero stress. Honestly, I will admit that event, from a public speaking standpoint, I wouldn't say it was the greatest event I have ever hosted, but overall, it turned out great, and I felt basically zero stress. Another thing that I will share, which is incredibly embarrassing, and if you know Latvian, then you will understand this. So, listen to this.
Labrīt, Artur.
Labrīt.
Pieminēšu, ka tu esi Jāgan.
If you missed that, I will repeat it.
Jaunietis Arturs Gailis. Labrīt, Artur.
Labrīt.
So, what happened there? In Latvian, she asked me, "Good morning, Arthur." As a response, I wanted to say good morning. But what I said was like, good morning. I don't know what I said there. It should be labrīt, but I stumbled over my own tongue, apparently, and I screwed up the first word I said in that interview. And at this point, you can see in my head thinking, what the fuck just happened? But after that, I try to maintain my composure. And overall, yeah, the interview, I would say, wasn't the best interview I've ever given, but overall, it turned out fairly good. And no matter how embarrassing it was at the time, I'm alive. I'm alive, brother. And nothing changed. And when you realize the fact that even if you stumble over your own tongue in the first word you say in an interview, you don't die. Nothing changes in the world. I could have thrown up at this exact point, and I would have been in this position speaking, or rather yelling into my computer a couple of years later, and nothing at all in the world has changed since then. So that's super important. Next up, exposure therapy, which ties into being first. So if you're in school, the next time you have to give a presentation, no matter how much you don't want to do it, and no matter how anxious you feel, raise your hand, ask to be first. If you're at a networking event, if you have to give a presentation, raise your hand, ask to be first. And this will do two things. So number one, it will show the people around you that you are confident and that you show initiative. And the second thing is, it's exposure therapy, baby. It's exposure therapy. You will do this once, and then the next time you do it, you will feel like actually excited to do it. Because I remember I hated giving presentations. I remember feeling super anxious. But now I genuinely, and I'm not lying to you, I actually feel incredibly excited to speak at networking events, to speak in interviews, to talk with people, random people, whatever, gym, whatever. I love talking with people. And this is like the polar opposite of what I felt a couple of years ago. Literally, like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I was scared to go into a coffee shop alone. But now I feel absolutely comfortable doing an interview in front of a live interview in front of 30,000 people, hosting networking events, whatever. These are two completely polar opposites, which are a result of exposure therapy. It was a result of that one action, which was going into that coffee shop alone. Now, I not only, going to a coffee shop alone, that's not really anything, but I would love to go to a restaurant alone. I would love to go to a coffee shop alone, whatever, speak to the barista, whatever. All of that, I couldn't even fathom doing a couple of years ago. So first, understand the things, the actions that cause you the most stress, that cause you the most anxiety, and do exactly those. Make it a mission. If you're just as I was scared to go in a coffee shop, do it. Just do it once. You won't die. Nothing will change. Just do it. Next, ask to speak at an event. Whatever, you don't know public speaking, learn it on spot. Whatever, you won't die. Nothing will change. Just do it. And as a result, you will expose yourself to these stress stimuli, which you will get used to, one, but also you will learn to speak on the spot and not memorize things, which is so important. Being a good public speaker doesn't mean memorizing 4 A4 pages of text. It's learning to speak on the spot. I have no script. I don't know the words I'm going to say next. I have a couple of bullet points here, but over the years, speaking in front of people, screwing up presentations, I have learned how to speak on the spot and how to think while I'm speaking. And you can do this in two ways. One, this is important, from a business perspective, from an exposure perspective, from a whatever, call people instead of texting them. One, if you're an entrepreneur, business will move 20 times as fast, because I'm not even sure really why texting has become the norm, but calling people is so much faster, because people ignore messages, but they don't ignore phone calls. So first, start calling people instead of texting them. Second, if you don't want to call them or you can't call them, send a voice message. If you think you screwed up the voice message, re-record it. It's that simple. And doing this over and over again, you will learn how to speak better, how to formulate words better, and how to think on the spot, which is super, super, super important. So that wraps up everything I wanted to tell you today. And I'm telling you, if you expose yourself to these stress stimuli, if you understand the fact that stress is just as normal of an emotion as anything else, you will learn to feel more comfortable, you will perform better, and you will speak better. So thank you for watching, and see you next time.